Hello viewers and welcome to podcast 22. I'm Bilko.
I'm Brenny.
And tonight we've got a YouTube exclusive. We've got from Glasgow. We've got Ciaran from the ACID Brewing Cartel. So he's going to be coming up in a wee minute or two for you. So it's going to be a good one, isn't it, Brenny?
I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to hearing Ciaran's sort of going forward with their ACID Brewing. See themselves, how they're moving forward. Great beers. So, I look forward to tonight, Bilko. Really looking forward to tonight.
Me too, mate. Me too. So, without further ado, we'll just crack on and we'll fire on to the video.
Indeed.
So, we've welcomed you. We've got a special guest tonight. We've got Ciaran Feebles from ACID Brewing Cartel. Welcome, Ciaran.
How you doing, guys?
Not too bad.
Thanks for turning up.
Yep, I have to say, you've got one badass headset on there, my man. Put us all to shame. So, Ciaran, can you just tell us a wee bit about ACID Brewing Cartel? Why did you start? How did you come up with the name? Can you tell us a wee bit about
that? So it started in 2018. I'd probably been homebrewing for about 2 years. Kind of got really into it. I'd been really into kind of beer from probably since I was 18, man, since I was allowed to drink. I was just kind of working in bars, like my family had some bars in Glasgow as well. So I had a really good beer education, got into brewing through that. And then eventually 2018, I was like, fuck it, man, I'm going to give this a shot, man. And I was seeing what guys like Up Front and Gallus and all these kind of like Dead End Brew Machine, what they were doing. I was like, I'm just going to take a punt at this. So yeah, decided to start up ACID Brewing Cartel. I noticed, like, at that point, so this was 2018, at that point there wasn't really any Scottish specific breweries. Scottish sour specific breweries. So I was like, do you know what, there seems to be a bit of a gap in the market for this, so I'm really into these kind of beers. I'm going to try something different. But I think it turns out at the exact same time, I think Vault City literally just got in behind me by like a couple of months. Because I remember trying their Strawberry Skies like a week after like my beer had came out. So yeah, and then slowly just started building it for there. It's been a fun wee project, and it's just slowly kind of grown with popularity. To begin with, it was originally just something to do in a pastime and just to try something different, to be honest. But it's got to this point now where I'm like, where do I take this? do I start to take this?
Can I ask, and we'll probably cover this again, but like, how did you go from the home brewing to getting the licenses, etc., to being the guy that was actually bottling, selling, etc.?
Well, to be honest, man, it was like, I had no clue that I could do this until I seen Ben from Gallus do it. And I seen that he was deciding to start contract brewing at Drygate, and I was like, what? Like, you can do that? Like, you can just go and like hire a kit and do that. And I'd seen how he was progressing, and he'd been brilliant, man. Like, I fired him with so many questions, and he just kind of hit me the lowdown of like how to get it started and how to do it. It's a kind of strange setup because technically I'm not a brewer. Technically I'm a wholesaler. So what happens is I had to apply to HMRC to become a wholesaler, and then I go to a brewery, brew the beer, and then they sell the beer back to me as if it's them that's brewed it.
Got you. It's just interesting to know how that happens, because just that process, just even that process for them to just think they were doing similar. Do you know, it's just nice to know that right away.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But Ciaran, see the name. Listen, we need to touch on this. We're going to ask you this later on.
We need to touch on this, man.
Now, is it named after Acid House, or is it because of the acid that's used in sour? Is it? I mean, what's behind the name?
It's a bit of everything, man. Because so at the time that I was getting into homebrewing, was the time that obviously I think I started homebrewing at 19, and when I first turned 18, I was like, yeah, it's got a chance to go in Glasgow, man, go to clubs and stuff like that. So get really, really into like house music, techno. So like going to the sub club, Archie's, all of that kind of stuff. So I was really influenced with music. Like I used to, obviously nothing professionally, but I used to try and produce music. So I was really into synthesizers and stuff like that. Like it was almost like a borderline addiction of me on eBay trying to buy like old school Roland like 303s and 606s and all this, and I had this mad weird fetish for like old school hardware. So that had obviously been an influence as well, and I wanted to kind of like use that influence that I had on me music-wise and kind of like push it into beer. Because you kind of notice, man, like no one really has that. I mean, there seems to be a good relationship with like kind of like really hard metal bands and stuff like that who release beers, but nobody that's really into that kind of dance music have went down that route.
Mate, you're right, but there's a new company over in Edinburgh called Dance House, and they
I've seen that, yeah.
Aye. So it kind of dovetails into that. Sorry if I interrupt you there, mate, but see, Ciaran, what you said there, I think, you know, the craft beer scene, I think it's got a lot in common with that kind of music scene as well, because everybody's after, you know, the new releases, etc. You get your old classics, all that kind of thing. So I think it does kind of dovetail in quite nicely with the craft beer scene, the music. So that's interesting,
and especially the age demographic as well, of the sort of the older you get, and especially in lockdown, we're going nowhere. We're going absolutely nowhere. So all you've got is your old school mixes and whatever beer you're drinking. So it's like you end up sitting, I'll stick a mix on, and then before you know it, your fridge is empty. You're like, what the fuck? It's like just getting back to the old school. Do you know what I mean?
That's exactly it, man. I feel like lockdown has actually made people go back to like classics in all senses. Like, everybody's just kind of going for something and they know it does the job, man. The amount of like Augustine or Hellas that I've drank during lockdown is more than I've ever drank in the past 4 years. Because it's like, do I want to spend $4.50 on a can, or do I spend $2.70 on Augie? Because I know it's just going to be perfect.
The best. You know, every single Augie you open, the only disappointment you've got in it, if there is one, is that you're not in Munich getting it at 80 cents a can.
I know.
It's a bottle, do you know what I mean? It's the only, that importing and everything else, you're like, this is just the best beer out. I love it. I absolutely love it.
If you're getting it for £2.70, we'll hit you up after the show, all right?
I'll not name drop, but there's that.
We already know where to go to the suppliers. He's just at it. We can't trust ourselves buying it in bulk, you know what I mean? Because it'll just get tanned that day.
So you touched it back, just to get back to you starting off, etc. So you're not, you know, you're kind of, you're a kind of nomad brewer, I believe, is how you'd maybe class yourself. But that's really interesting, because as a very novice brewer myself, I mean, I've only done one beer so far, so we're looking to get a bit of advice off you later in the show. But I know if you're a nomad brewer, you're obviously relying on using other people's equipment. Is there ever a bit of, like, you know, don't want you to use the equipment, or, I mean, how do the other brewers feel about you using their stuff?
I mean, it varies between each place. I'm lucky that I've now kind of started to build relationships with a couple of different brewers that I kind of trust, and we got on well. I remember my first day going into Drygate. It was quite daunting, man, because I'd say I'd kind of went in with a very arrogant mindset, to be honest, man, because I was like, oh man, I know how to brew beer. Like, I go in here and chat to these guys, and I realised I was like, man, I'm actually quite out of my depth here, man. That's the thing. It's like going for a homebrew level where you're like brewing as an art. That's what you're doing. Like, it's an art form at a homebrew level, but when you start to brew up there, it is pure science, man. Obviously, there has to be a level of kind of like creativity, but the science is probably one of the most important parts. It's been amazing for me as a brewer to go in there, because I've learned so much from these guys. Like my whole initial technique of souring beer actually came from Pete Sampson at Drygate. Because I was ready to buy a sour pitch when I was doing my first beer, Acid Mango, which was going to cost me like easy like 170 quid, and he was like, "Don't bother, mate. Don't bother. You can literally just sour it with grain." And I'd read about this before, and I was like, "Is it really, really risky?" And he was like, "Nah, man." Like, and he showed me how to do it. And after that, I was like, "Jesus, man! Like, this is so straightforward and simple." And it's been good because I've went to other breweries and I've spoke to them about it, and they've done it that way. And then it's just this like kind of this domino effect of information. But yeah, I mean, some brewers can be quite weird about it. because you're kind of going into their space, and it's almost kind of like they have their own ways, and sometimes you want to do something a bit different, and they're kind of like, I kind of want to advise against this, but you're actually paying for my time here, so it's like a bit of a balance. But I mean, I've especially places like Campervan, I've built up a really good relationship with those guys, and we kind of know how each other's works. And like Patrick, the brewer over there, like he will advise me on some stuff. Like, cool, this is how we would tend to do this, but if you want to do this, go ahead and do it. I'd say the most receptive brewer has been Phil at Simple Things. That's where I brewed my industrial farmhouse. He was just kind of like, do your thing, man. Like the most hands-on ever. It was quite like, especially with that beer, it was quite a unique brewing process. And he was just like, go for it, man. Just go for it. And that was brilliant. That's what I loved the most. That was the most kind of hands-on experience, and just kind of like got to do whatever I wanted, which was amazing.
Brilliant. Well,
a lovely product, Bilko. A lovely product produced. I mean, without a doubt.
We've managed to lay our hands on it, mate. We're going to link for the viewers. We've got a list of places where you can buy it from. We'll do that, obviously, if you're watching this, and we'll be hooking Ciaran up as well, his Instagram, etc., all that jazz. What we'll be touching on how Farmhouse came about later in the show, Ciaran, but I was just wanting to ask, you've done obviously quite a few historical beers as well. Is there any you want to kind of touch on? And we would like to ask you, what's the favourite beer that you've done in the past?
It's quite difficult to say, man. I really, really enjoyed my first beer. My first beer was just an absolute fluke at how well it turned out. I'd kind of like tried it in like a small batch, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go for this. So my first beer was Acid Mango, which was a kettle sour fermented with a kind of wild strain of brewer's yeast. It's quite a unique yeast in the sense that it was actually classified as something completely different about 9 years ago, and it kind of got revisited, and it's now being classified as like a regular brewer's yeast rather than a wild yeast. But it's in the kind of middle ground. But so I used that with some really, really good mango puree, and it was just delicious, man. I remember. I actually didn't know Dom too well at Cool Shipyard. I mean, we'd known each other within like working in bars and stuff like that. And when I'd started this up and I'd messaged him, I was like, "Do you fancy taking some?" And he was like, "Yeah, drop me off a sample." And I remember dropping off a sample, and then literally as I was like leaving and driving, like 2 minutes later, messaged me. He was like, "Yep, I'll take a keg and a case, mate." I was like, "Yes."
That's Dom on it back. That's Dom on it back. I know. No procrastinating at all. Just give it.
I know. But I'd say that was obviously probably my favourite because it was my first one, and it's pretty much started all this. And if that didn't go so well, then I probably would have been still brewing. But the one that's actually held up the best in terms of getting left alone to age a bit longer has been my second beer, my Acid Peach. So that one was a Saison yeast that I used in that. With some peach puree, and I think it was actually halfway through lockdown last year that I cracked open a bottle, and I cracked open a bottle alongside an Acid Mango as well. And the Acid Mango was still tasting good, but like the Saison had developed into like an unbelievably good beer. Like I was just looking at it and drinking it, like, my God, man, like I should have waited at least 2 years before I actually released this bottle. This just gets so much better.
Have you got any left?
No, I mean, I'm not. Unfortunately, not. I know when I drank
it. Never miss a trick, is he? Never want to miss a trick straight in. You go, Eddie.
When I drank it, I was like, oh, damn it, man. I really wish I kept a case of this. But, I mean, yeah, apart from that, a lot of the experimental stuff that I'd done in, like, single keg batches, I'd really, really enjoyed. My first beer festival I'd done at the Barra's Beer Bash at 2019. I'd done one called a Mandarina Table Sour, which was like a 3.5% kettle sour, dry hopped to Mandarina Bavaria, and left to age on Brett Lambicus for about a year. And it was just like this really subtle, like kind of funk to it, and it wasn't too sour. And I was literally slinging pints of it like that weekend. It was phenomenal, and that was when I was like, this is a beer that I would love to make all the time. But the only issue is that a lot of breweries just won't let you use Brett in their brewery just because of how infectious it is. That is one of the downsides of doing nomadic brewing, is sometimes you can't really ferment things the way you'd like to ferment them, which is understandable because these guys are doing this to like feed their families, and they're not going to take a risk for a wee guy like me coming in and, and spoiling all that. So it's understandable.
Ciaran, just for the viewers and obviously for us as well. Well, not so much me being an expert brewer, but for Brenny, right? You mentioned there just about the yeast and how it can be infectious and stuff. I mean, how could you maybe explain that to us? Like, it's like, is it like a bacteria type thing? Is it like that, or?
And the beer that I do use bacteria, but this specific wild yeast called Brettanomyces, it's found in a lot of fruits, like raspberries and all these kind of things. It's also found in like a lot of trees, etc. But it's like one of the most prominent yeasts in lambic. Usually in beer, in modern beer anyway, it's considered an off flavour, and through things like wine as well, like people don't want it at all. But traditionally, maybe like pre-1900s, nearly all beers, especially in the UK, would have had Brettanomyces in them. It can range from having flavours of like tropical fruits, passion fruit, to like sweaty socks and like a horse's arse. That's still that's another description of it. But in terms of like infections, it's even if you can clean all your equipment, and if there is like 1/10 like a cell like kind of left over there, it will just grow. In fact, it's probably not correct. It's like basically a brewer's yeast, like per million cells, for Brettanomyces, it's like 1/10 of that is needed to just survive and grow.
Wow.
So it's just been historically people just never really wanted it. But it used to be really common in barrels, especially in the UK. The UK, a lot of people don't realise this, man. Like the UK had such a really good history of like barrel aging beers and blending them. Funnily enough, one of the books I'm reading just now, Wild Brews by Jeff Sparrows, talking about how people in Belgium, so like in Flanders, where they make like the Flanders Red and stuff for that, like the really well-known kind of sour beers, they kind of like traded information with people from the UK and their techniques. And it seems like really until now, with this kind of revival of all these old techniques, it's almost been lost. Like this full form of historical brewing just disappeared in the UK.
Well, that's one thing I've noticed about the styles obviously making a big comeback. If you're looking, obviously we're online, social media, you see it all over the place. There's more and more people seem to be getting into the sour style. I did actually notice, now we couldn't believe it, that there was actually the two other beers you've chose for us to try tonight are actually in the south side of Glasgow. Now, I know you'll be picking them obviously because we are the lockdown aficionados, the leaders of the Southside Glasgow cartel, right? But no, it was really good you picked them. Fits in with this whole supporting your local, and I was amazed. I was saying to Brenny that we've got two, other as well as yourself, two really good sour beer kind of specialists on the scene. The scene in general in Glasgow, what do you make of it? Not just for maybe sours, but obviously it's developing. But what do you make of the scene as a whole in Glasgow at the moment, Ciaran?
I think it's brilliant, man. The way it's developing is amazing. Especially from like seeing it from 2013 when I was first working in the beer cafe, and there wasn't really that much local stuff. I mean, you had like West and stuff like that. And now where you've got guys like Overtone, and then you've also got Upfront, Simple Things. Well, Dead End Brew Machine is now kind of moving about. He was in Glasgow, and then he was at Dundee, and now he's in Edinburgh. I still class him as Glasgow brewery though. We're definitely keeping him. It's just been phenomenal, man. It's brilliant, and I think it can only get better. I think once Overtone develops a bit more, and they eventually get like a tap room, it's going to be brilliant because I'm sure they'll be up for showcasing a lot of the local guys here. It's only going to get better, man. It's only going to get better.
I mean, even if you just, I'm just a consumer, so for that side of it, it's incredible. I mean, even just where you can go and buy beers, and it's like you're so lucky. You're so lucky. You talk to folk online and stuff, and you're like, right, well, we get it here, we get it there, and you're like, folk are just so what do you mean? Your local key store, your local sesh store and stuff are now actually providing you with like, the beer that you want to drink with everything else as well. You know, it's like magic, absolutely magic.
It is mental, man. Like I literally live 5 minutes away from the SAS store in Bolshaw's Road, and like
Sidif's a legend. Sidif's a legend.
Sidif is a legend, man. But like you go in there and he's like got dare and all this kind of stuff, and obviously a fridge full of overtone, all sorts of jam.
The other day I noticed a new fridge that I hadn't noticed before. Have you noticed that he's taking that whole bit out so that he can fit another fridge in there? And I was like, hold on, Cyrus, where did you get all this? You just feel compelled to buy it. You don't even look at it. You just like, buy.
It's great, man. It's great. And then you've obviously got like Barry's and Cavcart as well. And they've obviously got a couple of other stores. Like they're up their beers. I'm sure they're selling Vault City now as well, which is class for like a mad wee
local. Just a local. I know. It's brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant.
And we've also got obviously our stalwart Neil at the wee beer shop as well. Who,
a legend.
Aye, absolute legendary scene. So we'll hear a wee bit more about Industrial Farmhouse. We're going to make that our second beer, but we're going to lead tonight. Our first beer is actually going to be one of the local brewers. It's called Treat Yourself. And is it from Dookit or Dookit? Is it Dookit?
Dookit, aye.
Dookit. So it's a raspberry sour is how we're describing it.
I think it may be Blackcurrant.
Oh, sorry, I do apologise. I can't even read.
Aye, Blackcurrant.
Blackcurrant. That's quite clearly Blackcurrant.
Listen, I've not got my. Listen, I've went for the arty look tonight with this dark setup, man. I've not got my glasses. I can't read it. All right.
You're using my classic excuse. Not a reader. Not a reader.
So it smells very sour. I love the wee bottles. I love the label.
Yeah, the stubbies are class, man. Aye, the label is really, really cool. The branding on it is brilliant, and the cut as well, man. Like just that wee circle bit.
Oh,
and that triangle.
That's superb.
We'll touch on your label later on, because like I was saying there just about how long it took me to actually get off a bottle. And in such a way I could mount it. It was like I don't know what glue you're using, but anyway, we'll go back to that.
So, guys, cheers.
Indeed. Cheers. Oh, that's sour on the nose.
Oh, this is the first Blackcurrant sour I've tasted. Oh, I love it.
It's pretty much just like Ribena. It's just pure Blackcurrant fruit winders.
It isn't half in it. Oh, it's like we've discussed this quite a lot here, and you know when you get.
Always get these reactions. Don't worry, this is just my natural reaction to sour beer. It's brilliant.
Yeah, we call it like the Archie's face. A good sour will give you the Archie's face, you know. But the great thing about this style I find is this is given it. This is really good, but you get that, you know, the gun face. But then when you have your second or your third sip, you don't get that as much as you get. I don't know if your body just gets used to it. And then I think that's when the flavours really kind of come out. And I think as well, I don't know if the kind of sourness, it really gives you, it releases the endorphins, for want of a better word. But this is class. It's quite tannable.
It is, man. I mean, it's definitely the first sip is very tart, isn't it, man? But I think you're right. After the third sip, like your taste buds gonna calm down a wee bit and get used to that level of acidity. Like I actually did feel it in the back of my gums there, man. So like the back of your teeth, you're like, oh.
But it's Ribena. That is Ribena. It just settles down. Ribena, it just settles right down. The tartness, that immediate oof hit is just away. It's just like, and now it's settled right down.
6.6% as well, man. Oof.
Come on.
I didn't realise it was that strong.
Aye.
There's no way you would know that 6.6%. You know,
I know.
No danger.
Ciaran, can you tell us a wee bit? I mean, what can you just tell us? I mean, obviously they're local, but is there a reason why you wanted to share this one with us at all?
Oh, basically, Harry, who runs the brewery, well, he runs it with his partner, who I've not met yet, but he was the guy who invited me to my first festival at the Barras Beer Bash. So Harry hosted the Barras Beer Bash back in 2019, and so Harry is originally from London. His grandparents are actually from Glasgow, so he's obviously Irish. I think it's just his grandparents. I'm not sure if his parents are as well, but he's definitely got relations in Glasgow. So he's obviously been up here a good few times and stuff like that. But he used to be the assistant brewer at Canopy Brewing down in London, and then eventually moved up here and worked for West for a wee bit, and then started running the Barras Beer Bash. So they've only started maybe in the last year, if that. But Harry actually helped me bottle Industrial Farmhouse. Awesome. And they also provided the cask for the Industrial Farmhouse for Cool Shipyard. So like me, him and Phil have always had a good connection. Like we always help each other out, either bottling or things like that. So when he released this beer, I remember trying it and being like, "What man, this is brilliant." I actually spoke to him about it, about the process and stuff like that. And I remember when he was doing his initial prototype batch, and he was asking me for some advice and different things in purees, but he actually drove to Blairgowrie to get the blackcurrants for this. There's like proper dedication, and you can taste it, man. You can taste the freshness in this beer. And he's just an all-round great guy, man. He's brand new, and it's a brewery that I'm really looking forward to. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what beers they're going to be producing. I think at the moment they also had their Southside Pale Ale, which was really nice, which was kind of like a New Zealand topped pale ale. And I believe he's also got a table beer and a breakfast stout, which should be coming out soon as well.
Right, so
covers all our bases. That basically covers all our bases. A table beer, a breakfast stout, and I said, "Oh man, we're laughing. We'll be going back to Dookit, man, definitely."
Aye, 100%. I'm sorry if Dookit, if you're watching this, I'm sorry for describing you as a sour fruit brewery. I do apologise, obviously. You're just a brewery. But aye, this is superb. I'll tell you, I could wake up a Saturday lunchtime. This would sort you right out, man. Sort you out a wee bad day at the office. That would sort you right out.
Let's not lie, Bilko. You could be drinking that on the Zoom chats. They'd be none the wiser. Do you know what I mean? You're glad think you're on that right beer. You'd be cool, mate.
Mate, I was walking about with my tap half the day because it was sunshine, man, down in this, left, right, and
So, just get back to the artwork. I see it's by Hazel Dunn, and hazeldunn.com is the artwork. I'll be checking out Hazel's work because this is the first I've actually looked at the bottle. I've had it in the fridge and stuff and I've moved it about, but definitely, I really like that. I do really like that. It'll be getting steeped over really cool. Going on the wall. But I think it's worth mentioning Hazel Dunn's artwork because that is really cool for a bottle of beer.
That is really cool. And the
that
actual...
is very cool. Very cool. It's... I've been in that state a few times.
Right. Sorry, Ciaran, were you going to say something about the artwork there? Sorry, mate.
No, I was just saying the logo looks class as well. Just like I don't even know the best way to describe it. It's just very minimalistic and simple, but brilliant, man. And the use of the colours as well. It's a really nice label. Really nice.
And
label.
It's a very Glasgow thing to do, do you know what I mean? It's like
aye.
If you've ever grown up in Glasgow, you'll know what a Dookit is, do you know what I mean? Like, just so, aye. But,
as indeed, man, there's a Dookit.
The intricacies of scheme life.
Aye. There's a wee Dookit in it. If I'm driving over to pick up some beers over at a wee beer shop and go over to Coal Ship, I pass a wee Dookit just up where the new shopping centre is, man. But aye. Do you know what? I hadn't even thought of that. That's stupid, man. I hadn't even thought of that, the Dookit, man. That is class. So, guys, are you ready to fire in with the scores on this bad boy?
Well, we're ready to score that.
So, just for editing purposes, I'll go first, lads, if that's all right, then Brenny, and we'll get our guest. So, would I buy that again? I'm not going to lie, I actually tried to buy it again already. I was on, but unfortunately we sold it. But I'll definitely buy that again when I can. I'm not going to sesh it. It's not a sessionable style. I would certainly buy a few It's not sessionable. Now that I know it's 6.6%, I think, 2 of them in the summer would be class. Score-wise, we've had a lot of good sours on the show, viewers. I'm just going to have a wee sip. Sorry, Ciaran, I normally build this up like the X Factor, the results and all that, right? So I do apologise. It's better than fizzy Ribena, man. It's an 8.5 out of 10 from me, man.
Right. So for me, really like it. It's no. I say this every week, right? We review sours all the time, and I say I'm not really a sour fan. I end up always marking them like the highest beer in it, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like that's quality. Do you know? Like, I end up thinking they've done so well with it to get that taste into that sort of. But anyway, I'm really enjoying it, and obviously no session in it. Buy again in a second. I'd love to have a couple of them just stashed, just so you could actually share it with other people. That's what it's all about, community. Share it with other people, let them know that it's out there, and this is what beer's all about these days. It's not just like whatever, do you know, like share it. Score-wise, I don't want to go too big. I don't want to go too big too early. So for that, I'll go 0.1 underneath Bilko and go 8.4, but that's absolutely no reflection on the beer. There's a good chance I could have scored that a 9.2. It's that good, but I'll go 8.4 because it's the first beer of the night and I want to see what else is there.
Of course. I know it's a class, man. It's a class all-rounder. Like, it's got that really, really big fruit flavour in the nose. Like, just all blackcurrants. Perfect level of tartness. Like, I know we said that initial sourness was like really, really sharp, but once you get used to it, you definitely have a good few. You definitely cannot taste the ABV on this. Like I was adamant that was going to be 4%. Like drinking that, like, I hadn't even looked at the label. I was like, most definitely 4%. And yeah, and the flavour carrying through, it's just phenomenal. But yeah, definitely 8.5, man, 8.5 out of 10.
Would you say it?
Superb, man. See, this is what happens.
Definitely could say it, man. I'd like to, but I'd be absolutely tanned after it, man.
I'm glad great minds think alike on that beer. What I will say, we'll be touching on this brewery. I think, Brenny, this is definitely one to put on a list, isn't it, mate?
Oh, definitely.
So,
look forward to it. Maybe even with them being local, we'll get another wee special, and same as what we're doing with Ciaran. Get a wee chat about how they see it, how they want to go forward. But yeah, brilliant.
That'd be good. So, Dookit Brewing, treat yourself. Cheers.
Cheers, lads.
So, beer number 2 tonight, well, needs no introduction. It's Industrial Farmhouse from Glasgow's ACID Brewing Cartel. Now, we never had the balls to review it in front of Ciaran, so we're going to cut to the video in a few minutes. But Ciaran, would just like to ask, what's the kind of story behind this lovely beer?
So the idea behind this beer came during lockdown. There was like a really influential book that came out by a guy called Lars Marius Garshaw called Historical Brewing Techniques. And basically, Lars Garshaw, he's not a technical brewer. He's just really, really interested in home brewing, specifically in Norway. And Norway have got a really interesting kind of like yeast sharing culture. And the particular yeast they use is called Kveik, spelled like Kveik, which is literally just the Norwegian word for yeast. But this particular yeast has become really, really influential within the craft brewing scene. Most of the kind of yeast that they're using is coming from farmhouse breweries. They're not commercial breweries, they're literally just farmhouse breweries within farms, pretty much. Like they don't make for commercial purposes, they just make for the community and for themselves, etc. But these yeasts are being kind of picked up, and each individual culture has been taken and then being commercialized. But within this book, what Lars talks about is that a lot of these cultures are like very, very diverse, and the stuff that you're buying commercially is a lot different to what they actually use in the farmhouses. So I'd kind of like seen this and I was like, man, I really want to try what this yeast is like this pure mixed culture of yeast. So I started doing a bit of research, looking about anyone that was selling it. I'd spoke to yeast suppliers that I'd used before in a a couple of guys, one of the yeast suppliers in Ireland, WHC, he's been selling Kveik for a while, but it's all isolates. But he was like, I don't have the original culture, but I can grow like the bacteria culture and stuff like that. But it wasn't the pure stuff, man. I was like, nah, I'm looking for the OG strain, man, straight from the farmhouse. So I got in touch with this guy from Budapest. And we got chatting, and I was like, is this proper Kveik, man? He's like, yeah, I've got a friend who lives in Norway, who knows a couple of the farmers around a bit there, and that's what he does. He picks up the yeast and sends it over to me. I've got a wee lab, I just build it up. So I got a culture of this particular yeast from Storndal called Ebegarden, and it was like a combination of 6 strains of individual yeast combined with 2 strains of bacteria as well. And I brewed up a little test batch, and I tried it out, and I was like, this is fucking class. Like the complexity from like the yeast was just insane. Like there was no hops added, nothing. The sourness after like 3 days was like really, really complex. And funnily enough, my trial batch is in a 10-litre keg in the cellar of Cool Shipyard. So I basically gave this keg to Dom and was like, try this out. I was like, if any regulars come in, like put it on draft and let them try it, because I'm thinking about brewing this on a bigger scale. But the way things worked out, this was obviously during lockdown, and the pubs has only been open like marginally, minimal hours, etc. I never managed to get it on, so it's still sitting there. So I never managed to try it. So I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to go for it. So I got in touch with Phil at Simple Things Fermentation, and I was like, I really want to brew this beer. Are you okay with me doing this here? It's got bacteria in it, etc. And he's like, yeah, we can work it out. So we organise a brew day. I speak to the guy in Budapest, and he's like, cool, it's going to take 2 weeks. And the strange thing about this yeast, it's like, it works completely different from regular brewer's yeast. So like a regular brewer's yeast, you kind of ferment it between about 18 and 25 degrees. Like 25 degrees is the max you're going to be using for a regular brewer's yeast. Mm-hmm. Something like a Saison, you can maybe go higher, about 30 degrees, around about that. But with Kveik, like you can ferment it at 39 degrees. It's like the temperature would usually kill off most yeast.
Aye.
And this is the interesting thing about it. And it also, if you're fermenting a beer regularly, it takes about 7 days for fermentation. And Kveik can ferment things in 72 hours.
Wow, man.
It just pushes it to the limit, man. And the thing is, it's like, usually if a yeast is pushed really, really to the limits, it starts to release off flavors because it's stressed. It starts releasing really, really kind of like bad esters, some phenols and stuff like that, whereas Kveik doesn't do that, and the condition time is reduced massively. And this is the thing that really interested me about this yeast. But another thing as well, pretty much it's just like it's a super yeast. It's yeast on steroids, man.
Aye. It's like the Bilko and Brenny yeast of Kveik, the OG badass.
Yeah. But you underpitch it as well. So usually, if I was brewing on Phil's kit's about 650 litres. You would usually use about 250 grams of yeast, usually around about that. And the guy had sent me an email and he was like, I've sent you a wee bit extra, by the way. So like, I've sent you a wee bit extra yeast to ferment this beer. Hopefully it works out well. And he sent me 53 grams of yeast, which is absolutely nothing, man. Like, absolutely nothing. And like on the brew day, me and Phil were just standing, just staring at this little bag, man. Like this little bag of yeast, and we were just like, this is not going to work. Like, I do not believe anything I've read now. I'm just like, I've completely fucked this, man. Like, this is just going to turn out terribly. But we pitched the yeast, and the next day, Phil messaged me and was like, it's completely kicked off, man. Like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. Like, it's nearly blowing the top off of the fermenter. But the way the kind of like brewing process, I've got like a Twitter thread about it as well, and it's on my Instagram if they wanted to go watch it. But in Norway, traditionally they don't add hops. They usually mash the beer with a juniper infusion. So what they do is they get juniper branches, put them in the bottom of the mash tun, add water to them, and make this weird infusion, and then add the grain to it. And the juniper berries, not the juniper berries, the juniper branches at the bottom acts like a mash tun, not mash tun, a mash filter.
Yeah.
It was something I was interested in using. I was like, you know what, I'm going to kind of stick to the tradition. I'll try and use juniper branches, but basically in Scotland, they're really
juniper branches for me.
No, I never. That's the thing, I never, because you can get them in Scotland, but in this book it was talking about how juniper has a really, really close relative that is identical to it, which is like super poisonous, and it's like so easily to mistake them. And I was like, I am not taking that risk, man. Like, I've no clue in any kind of form of origin. So I was like, I'm not going to take the risk on that. But I tried to kind of follow the process of some of the recipes that were in the book. But usually they don't boil the wort because they're not adding hops. Usually a lot of brewers wouldn't do this. Brewers would always boil the wort in order to kind of like finish off any kind of enzyme activity, and also to prevent any DMS, which is like that kind of like horrible vegetable kind of flavour that you sometimes can get in beers. But I kind of went to go in the middle ground, so I only boiled the wort for 15 minutes. So we just literally just turned on the kettle, boiled it for 15 minutes, and then cooled it. So no hops were added at all in the actual brewing process.
Wow.
And then once it was fermented, it only took about 4 days. I think we fermented it about 36 degrees and then dropped it, just let it drop naturally. And then after about 5 days, when we tasted it, it was nice. But it was kind of missing a bit of a bite to it, man. It was missing a bit of a rounded flavour. So dry hopped it about 2 grams per litre with a bit of Citra and a bit of Mandarina Bavaria. And initially, I actually regretted that because after I tasted it, the hops were really fresh, and I was like, this is, even such a small dry hop, I was like, this is kind of taken away from the yeast flavour. But the way it's developed now, like, I'm really, really happy the way it's turned out. But yeah, it's definitely been the best beer I've ever made. It's been the closest beer to this kind of beers I want to make. Mm-hmm. And I'm really proud of it, man. This went down really, really well. And it's definitely kind of set a kind of direction of what I want to go in. I want to start experimenting with more of these kind of like traditional mixed culture yeasts, and just seeing what kind of beer I can make. And the good thing about Simple Things is Phil's been really open with me doing yeast experiments there. So the last couple of weeks I've been going there, and we've been brewing like a 30 litre batch and splitting up and trying some interesting stuff. Like, we've tried a couple of different Kveiks as well, and also some Farmhouse yeast from Lithuania, and also one of the most interesting ones was a yeast cultured from Chardonnay grapes, from the skins of Chardonnay grapes from California. And strangely enough, it literally just tasted like a Weiss beer. It just had like really, really big banana flavours, but had a bit of funk to it as well, which was really, really interesting. I know, it's mental, absolutely mental.
It's like, how you wouldn't expect that from.
You wouldn't, mate.
Just from where it was.
Because it's a completely different species of, so brewer's yeast is Saccharomyces cerevisiae, so that's what you would use for ale yeast and stuff like that as well. But this one is Saccharomyces boulardii or boulardii. I can never remember which one is that. So it's not, I mean, it's probably a close relation to brewer's yeast, but no one has really used it in actually making beer. Apparently it's really good for fermenting a lot of fruit, obviously, because people have been using grape skins for fermentation as well. But it's been interesting just like trying stuff like that, and maybe just building up to do something a bit more interesting.
Brilliant. So viewers, I've just been nodding my head because I know exactly what he was talking about, being a bit of an expert brewer myself. But no, seriously, mate, that is some insight into the method used. So without further ado, as I said, we'll cut to the video now, and we'll see what we thought of Industrial Farmhouse. So viewers, you'll probably guessed by now that we never had the balls to taste the beer in front of Ciaran, but you've heard all about the story at Industrial Farmhouse by now, and this is genuinely Brenny in it. I mean, we didn't want to get him to try his own beer.
I don't think it's fair to sit there and, I mean, we've already drank one with him.
Yeah.
By the time this goes out, and he'll have explained what his whole motivation and whatever else way it is, which I think is fair enough.
Yeah.
But I don't think us reviewing it in front of him is a fair representation of what we think of the beer. So to keep the ethos and to keep our integrity, your integrity, I think we're doing the right thing by reviewing it independently.
And this is the first time we've both tried it, big man, so
Yep.
we can introduce it and all that for a change. We can just crack right on.
ABC.
Right,
Acid
big man.
Brewing Cartel. Do you know? I mean, that's I like this. I like this. So
I
where
am
did
sure.
we get these from? Where did we get these from? Was this
I got
from...
them for the wee beer shop, mate. Neil, good service as usual, ordered it on, I think I actually got it the same day, to be perfectly honest, mate.
Mate, I'm going to actually have to go and get another bottle opener here, unfortunately.
No problem, I'm going to take my time opening pouring this out.
This one is working for me. It's just no
Have to
catching
say-
the top of the bottle. I need to go and get another one. Sorry about this.
That's fine, mate. It's a fantastic bottle, really heavy, green, clear, nice label, looks fantastic on it. Pours really well. As you can see, I've done a bit of a Bilko, plenty of carbonation going on. Going to have a wee smell of it. Oh, it smells like a nice sour.
That's the job.
Oh, it
First
smells
one
like a
never
lovely sour so far, man.
First one never worked at all. I don't know what that's my tried and tested faithful bottle opener as well, that one.
Oh, it certainly, there's a lot of carbonation going on for me. Don't know if you can see that. A hint of cloudiness.
And you got them for the wee beer shop, aye, is that
Got them
correct?
for the wee beer shop. As you can see, mate, I've chipped I've chipped the R on my beer of the wee beer shop. So, big man, cheers.
Indeed. Cheers.
Oh, it's definitely got the pop in it.
I wasn't getting much on the nose. I wasn't getting much at all on the nose. I don't know if that's just me. But that is... Oh,
Pineapple. Mate, I can just get pineapple. Oh, pineapple cubes. Oh my goodness me, man! It's
good.
It's
actually I can't work it. There's so much going on in that. I can't actually pick out anything individual yet. I'm really struggling to get anything individual.
But I just get a pop of the pineapple. That was the initial sour. After the second sip, mate, I'm getting heavy. I don't know if it's tangerine or nectarine or kind of mandarin or something. On the aftertaste, and I'm getting pineapple up my nose. Oh, there's a lot going on in this, isn't there, mate?
Oh, lovely.
Oh, it's superb.
Lovely.
I mean, I'm just looking at the description. I know Ciaran will have covered that earlier in the show, but obviously it's a mixed fermentation of Farmhouse sour ale, and it's fermented with a rare mixed culture, Kveik from Stordal in Norway. The high fermentation and temperature results in strong fruit-forward esters that create flavours of pineapple, mango and nectarine. And the high mash temperature combined with a short boil creates a rich mouthfeel, that marries well with the sharp lactic acidity. But sorry for laughing, it's like...
No, it's all. It's
the mouthfeel is phenomenal, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, that's what you want to be. Like, if you want a smile and a laugh, like that, you're laughing at that because it's that good. It really is. The tartness from it and the sharpness as well. It's incredible.
I don't know if see a lot with this style, Brennan. You know, obviously I'm a big. Well, we're both light sours, but I would say I'm a bigger fan of sours than yourself.
No, big time. I would say you prefer them more than I ever do.
But sometimes with the sour style, you don't get that kind of moorishness of it.
Yeah.
There's a wee bit of moorishness in that with me. There's a wee bit of like I want to have another. Like
already, you've not even finished the one that you've got. You want
aye. Whereas a lot of the other ones, you can say, you know, you're only ever going to have one of them. Do you know what I mean? You only buy it to have one or to share it. I'm impressed with this.
I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying it.
Oh, it definitely does. The mouthfeel, you know yourself, mate. We do like it when you get the old 2 o'clock at the Arches, feeling with a mouth, gurning and all that. You definitely get that.
The ABC has got a wee bit of that about it.
It's quite trippy, isn't it?
I'm looking forward to, and this is a bit retrospective, isn't it? It's a wee bit retrospective. I'm looking forward to actually hearing what Ciaran's going to say about everything that we're experiencing, plus how he's branding, how the name of the company came about, and all the rest of it. So it's going to be really nice to speak to him.
It's going to be good, mate. And,
I've been really looking forward to it. It's been one we've planned for a good few weeks now, and I'm glad it's coming to fruition because I've really been looking forward to it.
It has indeed, mate.
Like, even the beer. I was talking to friends in a Zoom chat last night, and all the boys love their beer. And I was saying that we've got them on, and I mentioned Acid Brewing Cartel, and there was only one guy in the chat. There was 6 of us. There was only one guy that heard that Acid Brewing Cartel. But funnily enough, he's the big cider lover. So my friend Jerry, who's good friends with Neil at the wee beer shop. Jerry and Neil know each other. That's how I know Neil, through Jerry, work and whatever else. And he was the only one who'd heard of him, and he was like, "Oh," do you know, his reaction was, "Oh." So, and in a good way, he was like, "Oh, really?" Do you know, you could tell it piqued his sort of interest. I don't think he's ever watched one of your podcasts.
Well, you might watch this one.
Exactly. So,
but JB, as you know, he's like ourselves, like myself anyway, he's got into craft beer a lot recently. I mean, back in November, mate, he phoned me up one day and he'd been trying to get Acid Brewing Cartel, man. He's like, you know who you should be trying, Walker. Acid Brewing Cartel. Now, JB, likes a party and all that, as you know. And he's like, you want to be getting into that, but you can't get it anywhere. So when I told him Ciaran was coming on, man, he's like, "You're joking me, man." I'm like, no, he's agreed to come on the show. So, listen, let's not blow smoke up this guy's that's all right. And so, listen, big man, I'm ready to score this.
I'm ready to score it. To score it.
So I'll go first, big man, just for the editing. So would I buy that again? Yes, I would buy it again. I'm absolutely delighted that we bought 2, one to try now and one to share on the show. So yes, absolutely. It's not sessionable just because of the style, but I tell you, that's probably one of the closest to sessionable sours I've ever tasted. The ABV content at 6.9% is kind of shying me away from that, but I would definitely buy a couple of them, man. In fact, I would probably buy 3 of them, or maybe 4, have them in the fridge, but I could certainly drink 2 of them easily and not feel like too sickly or that, like the sours normally can be. So yes, buy a couple. Score-wise, Brenny, I'm harking back to the days of yore when we did, Nothing Is Real by Track and Whitman. We've had some lovely sours on, even like Jam Slam's borderline sour. And we've been tanning a wee bit of the old Berliner raspberries as well the last couple of days. All really, really good ones, and we scored all these really highly. I'm going to be totally honest with yours, right? I think with this one, it's the price point. I don't know, maybe £6, £7-ish. And for the unusualness and the mouthfeel that's coming into my mouth right now. Sorry, Brennan, I know I'm milking it a wee bit. Just give us a wee second.
Go for it. Come on.
It does everything, mate. But that a sour does. But the process it's done blows me away because there's no fruit in it. So for me, I'm going to give that, mate. I'm going to give it an 8.6 out of 10, mate. And that might be it's definitely the best mixed fermentation farmhouse sour ale we've ever had on the show, mate. And I could probably justify myself going higher than that, but I'm going to give it a solid 8.6 out of 10, mate. So what about yourself?
Would I buy again? Definitely. Obviously, I never bought, so I don't know the price point, but based on taste, I would buy again. I didn't actually know the ABV until you'd said it. But there's no hint of it. I think you can tell by my face when I first try it what you're getting out of it. It's something you're going to, if you like that style of beer, you're going to really enjoy it. funnily enough, they aren't my favourite style of beers. You know this. Everybody who watches the show knows this. But incredibly, I always score them quite. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't like them, but do you know what? That's actually brilliant. And for that point of view, session-wise, again, 6.9%. I'm no sessioning that. I would have two, which for that style of beer, if you were to have two back to back, it would probably be the limit of the session of that beer. But I would try it. I would buy it using the Dom logic. Would I buy another one? Yes, I would. So that is a session for that style. And score-wise, it's a real toughie because I've scored some sours really high, and I'm going to stick with it. And this is nothing to do with having Ciaran coming on to the show or anything. I really enjoy it. I've really, really enjoyed it. And I don't see the point in not supporting your local brewers, guys who are in Glasgow, who are doing an absolute ton with his great beers. So I'm giving that a 9 out of 10.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Justifiable 9 out of 10 as well. You can justify that.
I think so. I think so. I think if anybody tries that and is disappointed with it, then I'd be surprised. I think anybody that tries it, even if it's not your style of beer, I think you can appreciate what's going on with it.
Aye.
The initial taste, I would defy anybody to go, oh, that's, do you know, like, if you don't like that, you don't really like drink, as far as I'm concerned.
Aye, man. Aye.
You know, like, there's a mixture of everything in there, do you know, like people who drink wine will like that, people who drink spirits will like that, people
cider drinkers.
Exactly, do you know, so you've got every sort of mix of, you could pour that in a party setting, and people would be like, do you know, like if you poured it in a smaller glass, and people would be like, what is that? Do you know? And that would be your Prosecco drinkers, that would be your sparkly champagne drinkers. Do you know, it's got all that in it. It's got all that sort of want more of, but only in those smaller terms. I think it's a fantastic. I mean, to call it a beer, I find it a bit of a stretch to call it a beer, just given my preferences of taste. But that's that's not a criticism. That's just how I can't, my own logic in thinking these are beers. I can't get my head around that, but they are.
Well, the thing is, this is what makes it so good, mate. If you were to taste that, if we didn't know anything about Acid Brewing Cartel, I tell you, those bubbles of went in my head, mate. So, but if you didn't know that, you'd taste that. And mate, as you know, I mean, we've tasted a lot of sours recently, and we've been tasting them off camera as well, myself in particular. Ultiger, for example, do sours. There's all sorts we've been trying. But if you'd have told me there was no fruit in that, I'd be like,
I'm amazed at that. I'm absolutely amazed at that.
It's a very well brewed, and that's why I think, for me anyway, that's why it should be classed as a beer, because it uses the beer process. But to get the fruit flavour in it, and let's be honest, a lot of people just pump it full of bloody fruit. Do you know what I mean? But that process is stunning. So, Brenny, I think we'll give that a cheers, big man.
Give that a cheers, definitely.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks to Ciaran for coming on the show.
So, viewers, welcome back. As you can see, solid scores, Ciaran, there. An 8.6 from myself and a 9 from Brenny. Although I will just point out that, Ciaran, since we've made that video, I've bought more of it than Brenny. Right?
It's not my style, but it's not my style. We've already discussed this.
Aye.
We've already discussed it. It's not my go-to style of beers. I like it. I appreciate it. And I'll always appreciate the work that goes into a good beer that I enjoy. But it doesn't mean to say that I'll buy it as much.
One thing we have touched on off camera, Ciaran, Brenny had mentioned it earlier on, we've mentioned it in our wee review as well. It's, you know, this style of beer, arguably, you know, is it a beer? But we've spoke about, you know, I can see myself. I'm actually, mate, see, when I get married, man, I'm thinking about having this. Do you know what I mean? I'll have this as the beer, as the kind of
palate cleanser, man. The palate cleanser.
I would say a welcome in the flutes. I think I did say this in the review, didn't I, Bilko? As you walk into if you walked into a place and you had a wee champagne flute or that past you, it'd be a talking point, all right. honestly, if an absolute talking point on it, people would be asking, what is that? Where'd you get it from? Never experienced anything like that. Because MD would enjoy that. MD would enjoy that.
Aye. I think it's such a wide range. It's such a wide ranging taste. We're not just saying this to blow smoke up your bum here, Ciaran, right? At the end of the day, you know, we buy, you know, a lot of people think as well, we buy these beers, do you know what I mean? We earn the right, Brenny, don't we, to discuss them. It's been an absolute bonus to hear the actual brewing process.
Fantastic.
All that. And I tell you something, what I absolutely love about it, mate, is that, see that whole ethos about the industrial farmhouse being about for the community in Norway. And there you go, Glasgow. Ciaran has brewed a community beer here in Glasgow for the community and obviously everywhere else. I just love that whole ethos, and it's all about the community. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely love that, mate.
That's the thing, man. It's like beer was such a central part of pre-industrial life, man, and it's good. It's good that it's almost like coming back to it, and that's the thing, especially with the revival of these yeasts. It's almost like a reminder of how society used to be, and how things used to function. And that's one of the things that really fascinated me about that book is even if you're not really into kind of technical brewing, even see for like the sociological and like the historical aspect to it, like how important like beer was for like rituals, for all sorts of like family gatherings. It was like, and especially yeast as well. They saw like yeast as like a gift from God, man, because it was like that turned the grain into bread. It turned the wort into beer. Mm-hmm. And it's just fascinating, man, that this is coming back, especially this particular yeast that was almost extinct. It's just coming back with such a force. But I think you're right, man. It's just like it's like almost like as a reminder about the reasons behind beer and the whole community focus of it.
Mm-hmm. I love as well. Sorry, Brenny.
Go on, you go, Bilko.
We were talking there as well off camera, and Brenny, I'm sure you've seen it as well, but we've actually seen the word Kveik, or Kveik branded about, and we've seen it on a lot of other like IPAs, for example. I know what you're talking about that off camera, and I've always associated that with IPA for some reason. Listen, I'm sure. I mean, we kid ourselves on with aficionados, but we're still. Well, me, I'm quite novice still when it comes to it. I actually thought Kveik was like a style of beer. I didn't actually realise that was the yeast, that went into it. And I think it's phenomenal that you've
explained that. You explained that superbly. That's just passing on information to us, passing on information to everybody else. That's incredible. Because a lot of Gamma stuff that we got was. I think one of the beers was actually named Kveik, hence why you're probably associated with the IPA, Bilko.
Yeah.
But it's amazing just to hear like the origins of it and where it comes from and how society's built on these things. Yeah. That's what a lot of modern life I think we've been missing. And it's amazing. It's like going back to one of the reviews we did previously with the Ganstaller with the Zoigl.
Aye.
And like Zoigl's only brewed in like that northeast Bavaria and the Czech border. Northeast Bavaria. And there's only like 5 towns that are allowed to actually call their brew Zoigl. And like when you start getting back in it, that's what it's all about. It's like everywhere has their own take on everything. Mm-hmm. And some places are really, really keen on keeping it and promoting it. Denmark, the whole of Scandinavia seems to be. And Germany's always, the German beer culture for me is where I would love to be. Because I think they celebrate it in a way that, and Czech beer culture as well, but they celebrate it in a way that it should be celebrated. It's community, and it goes back to the roots of community. In Scotland, man, if you drink beer, you're seen as some sort of lunatic, like the actual government say it. It's like they want to slam down on you all the time because you're a beer drinker. You're like, come on, that's the way. You're missing the point. You're telling me, I'm not telling you again. I've never told them to do it. You do what you want. I'll do what I want. And that's, I can't get it. I can't get how, for where we've been with such strong traditions, well, maybe not the sort of historic strong traditions, but it's all to do with capitalism and the events thereof. That's why we've lost it.
100%, man, 100%. I think even to do with beer, man, it just comes back to like capitalism, man, and like corporatism. All these massive corporations just try to monetize,
make money.
All these exactly.
That's all it is. There's no enjoyment in it. There's no community. There's no want in.
And I know that's the thing, man. It's like that's why the craft beer movement is so good, because it's almost like it's so focused on grassroots. And that's why people get pissed off so much when people sell half their brewery to Heineken. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, that's not the point, man. It's like...
It's the total sellout aspect, but you can understand that as well to a certain extent for a guy who's setting up themselves, who's wanting to make money. Do you know? Because
exactly.
You're trapped in the system.
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
You've got no other... I mean, I will never, ever condemn anybody for the choices that they make. And it's like... It's like end of the day, we've all got mortgages to pay, we've all got bills to pay. And see if you can redo what you're doing after selling it. I think a lot of it's today be like, well, you see, there was one brewer that caused an absolute storm. Was it Beavertown? Was it Beavertown caused an absolute storm? I can't remember exactly, but some really sort of high-end craft brewer at the time sold out to Heineken, and it was like, oh, do you know? And you're like, well, see, at the end of the day, these guys are just working out a train tunnel who need to live. They've got families, there's people to pay, there's whatever. You can't make the choices based on the system that you're built in.
I know. I think especially with Beavertown, man, it was such a difficult one where they were like, they had to grow because they end up contract brewing in Belgium. Yep. And the bank wouldn't give them a loan for a new brewery. So that's why they obviously brought Heineken in. But
it's distribution, isn't it? It's distribution it comes down to. It's actually distributing the product to where it needs because they were so big.
But it was actually a terrible business decision because like most of the independent retailers just wouldn't stock them, and then they were holding their Beavertown extravaganza, and like all their main breweries just pulled out. They were just like, nah, man, because I think it's interesting from seeing it from like an American perspective, because it was like a lot of the American brewers who did pull out, because they obviously are fighting guys like AB InBev who are just like enormous. The AB InBev own like 30% of the world's breweries. Like they own that amount. Do you know what I mean? So that's what they are. They see it as. So as soon as they see someone sell out to a big brewery, they're like, it's almost the opposite of the philosophy of what they have. It's a really complex situation, man. Like,
oh, big time, and it's even interesting with the whole. So, my mate Bruce over in Copenhagen with McKellar, like Bruce worked for Carlsberg, and he home brews, and his home brews. I mean, me and Bilko have been lucky to sample it, and Dom's in a couple of samples as well, and it's lovely. I mean, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant beer. But like the whole McKellar revolution over there has sort of flipped, because you go to Copenhagen now, it's McKellar town, it's not Carlsberg town. Do you know what I mean? It's like Carlsberg's got a big brewery that you go to see, and the hundreds of bottles. Do you know what I mean? The big bottle bar and everything else. But like, you actually go into Copenhagen Central, everything's McKellar. And if it's no McKellar, it's a kick on from McKellar's students.
Yeah, like 2-0 and stuff like that.
2-0, Evil Twin, all the rest of it. You know, every bar you go to, like, there's this influence from McKellar down. And it's incredible to see, because like, that's a maths teacher that just sold homebrew. Do you know what I mean? A maths teacher that sold homebrew just went, do you know what, I can do this better than what people can do because I know what people want to drink. And that's the ethos, and I love the fact that you're doing it, Ciaran, and I love the fact that you're actually getting out there, and do you know what I mean? Your knowledge is exceptional, and the research behind it, I think all the viewers will see that. It's just incredible to know, and I don't think people get this attitude towards craft beer. I hate the word craft beer. It's good beer. Dom sums it up. It's good beer. It's good beer. It's not craft beer. Beer's beer.
It's just beer.
Beer's beer. There's good beer and there's bad beer. And there's loads in between.
So, Ciaran, this sorry, Brenny. Sorry, mate.
No, bother.
Sorry. dovetails in nicely. We had a question for one of the viewers. We hadn't planned to ask you at this point, but it kind of dovetails nicely. This is for Davey Weir. Do you feel that supermarkets beginning to stock more and more decent craft beer is having an impact on indie bottle shops? And if, say, Morrison's came knocking on your door, how would you want to stock your product? How would you feel about that?
I think it's a very interesting one, man, because it's difficult to say how much people like Tesco, Morrison's, all these, and like Aldi, Lidl have actually taken away from the independents. Like it's hard to make a conclusion without seeing any figures or anything like that. I always kind of did see it as a positive to begin with, because the more people get those entry-level beers, they're going to start searching for more, and then they're going to find the independents. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I remember speaking to a few independents who are now having to like delist a lot of products because they are now being sold in supermarkets. Like a lot of stuff like Northern Monk, a lot of the American stuff like Lagunitas and Sierra Nevada, all those beers when they came out, things like North Salt, all those kind of things. And it's almost just kind of like, I don't know, man. It seems like these beers are now just being solely associated with supermarkets, and it's quite a difficult thing. I mean, I don't. I like to go to the supermarkets and see. I very rarely buy, but just to see what they're selling, and I'm just like in pure amazement that they've got like Creek Boone and stuff like that, and like Palana and all this kind of stuff that would never have happened 5 years ago.
An example of that the other day I put up in the group chat, and I don't usually buy it because I think it's overpriced. But I was in Asda, just walking by. I don't usually go to Asda, but I went into Asda just as you do for your shop. And they Jaipur, 4 Jaipur for £4.50. And I was like, what? Do you know what I mean? I was like, emptied the shelf and then told Bilko, like, Jaipur's on sale for £4.50. So he goes on the way down, he's like, you just emptied the shelf.
You listen to this, Ciaran, he emptied the shelf and then he told me.
It was a waste. I should have gave you some.
I got some of the Florida Vice. Ciaran, you've made a great point there. We've touched upon it, Brenny, in past episodes of the show there. It's a great kind of sort of, it filters you into the craft beer scene, I think, a lot of the supermarket brands. But I'm totally with you on that. It really annoys me sometimes when they get ones, for example, you know, the Jaipur or the Florida Vice from Thornbridge as well, which is a really nice raspberry Vice. Really like it, refreshing. But sometimes when the supermarkets get it, it's almost as if they might turn around and say, all right, we're only stocking that here. Do you know what I mean? We'd want you to stop sending it everywhere. Next thing you know, the recipe might get changed a wee bit. Which is why, for me anyway, it's kind of like indie music versus the major labels, if you know what I mean. The craft beer or the good beer scene, as we're calling it, you know what I mean, is all the cool indie labels, you know, Creation and all that. But then even Creation gets sold to Sony, if you know what I mean. It's all like that. Right. It's such a difficult one. But mate, listen, I'll just rip up this contract I've got then for Sainsbury's for Acid Brewing Cartel.
Do you know what, man? Like the idea has popped through my head. Funnily enough, I'm hopefully going to be releasing 2 beers probably like May, around about that time. And I've obviously I changed my branding for Industrial Farmhouse, like updated it, and I was getting some cans sorted, and I was actually going down the 330 route. And a lot of people...
Have you been watching the lockdown sharers? We don't want it.
So that was my mindset, because I was like, at the time, I was like, I'm not really buying a lot of 440 sours, but literally every single person I'd talked to who owned a brewery, I was like, unless you're selling to the supermarkets, do not put it in 330s. Don't do it, man. And I was like, oh, fuck, man, like, I'm going to have to change all my branding from 330s into 440s. Like, I was like, well, the guy's designing this is going to hate this. Funnily enough, he was actual brand new. He was like, it's cool, like, it's fine. But I'm actually hopefully going to be releasing a can in 330s in the next couple of weeks. The Collab Fest beer I done with Brewdog.
Brilliant.
I had plenty of kegs left of that, because obviously the pubs aren't open. I was anticipating that the pubs being open by now, which was a very stupid idea.
Not a hope.
Mate, not a hope.
No, there isn't a hope.
But to be fair, this is September when I brewed the beer, so I was like, March, definitely. But yes, I'm putting in some cans, so I'm going to have a limited amount of cans, which I'm probably just going to be selling on the website. There might be a couple of bottle shops that might have it. So
Well,
that's
make sure and give us a heads up and we'll stockpile
defo. But funnily enough, that's got some Kveik in it as well, but that's a Kveik isolate. That's in that. It's Voss Kveik, and it's got apricot puree and also some maltodextrin. It's kind of like a milkshake sour. It's very creamy, almost the consistency of a Weiss beer, but got a bit of a funkiness to it. We actually tried it in draft at Cool Shipyard, Dom, because I was getting some pictures taken from my website. So Dom was kind enough to let me go in, and I gave him and a couple of other people a few litres of beer to go for their troubles, which was brilliant. But in terms of supermarket stuff, for me, definitely would avoid it, man. Like 100% just now. I've had a good few conversations with brewers a lot more experienced than me, and they've gave me some good advice on the kind of directions to go, and especially because I don't have a brewery, I'm like, it's just focusing on the more kind of premium stuff. And I did want to go a bit more accessible, hence the 330s, but that's the thing, man. It's like, I don't know if the Horseshoe Bar is going to be taking like a 6% mango sour. So what I mean, like,
do your beer get sold in the Horseshoe Bar, mate?
No, that's what I'm saying. But if I'm going to try and make it a bit more accessible, do you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be, places like that are going to be like, get the fuck, mate. Do you know what I mean? They're going to laugh me at the door. So I'm like, I'm better just going down the 440s, going down the premium route. Yeah, it's actually been quite good just now. Send it to other parts of the UK. I'm just slowly kind of building up my my contact list, and some really good bottle shops across the UK who are up for supporting like really small breweries. Particularly O'Brien's bottle shop in Huddersfield have been absolutely class. Like the people who run that are just the best, man, absolutely the best. So they've took simple things, they've took Dookit and stuff like that. Like also popping hops in Cardiff when Scotland were on a harder lockdown in England. They went out of their way to take more Scottish breweries to help them out, which was class. So they took some of my stuff, simple things. I think Overtone as well. So there's some really class people who are up for like pushing the scene further, and it's all about this whole community values and helping each other out. Is class, man, absolutely class. So if you can, like, I mean, people are in different situations where they're living out nowhere near the city and have to go to Tesco for their beer, and it's like, it's understandable. But if you can help it, the indies, man, like they're the ones that are definitely pushing the scene at the moment.
100%, mate. You touched on it slightly there. I just want to kind of ask you, because you've launched this beer, Ciaran. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. In fact, I do know this. I'm not going to lie. I do know the situation, because me and Brenny were in Coleship. Because we had a wee Indian night planned, and then we booked the Queen's Park Cafe after it. But we started the night off at Coleship, and then it was the day before that we get told, no, the nights are all stopping at 10 o'clock. And I believe that is when because we were actually going to try some of the Farmhouse that night, and but we ended up having to curtail to get to the Indian restaurant quicker. I mean, it must have had quite a big impact on you. Do you know what I mean? Launching a beer like this during COVID. It must have been difficult. I mean, can you explain a wee bit about that? I mean, how did it feel, etc.? You put all this effort in, and I mean, how did that feel for you?
I mean, it definitely has been difficult. I had a particular plan for this beer, and what kind of venues I would go for, and it just turned out a lot of these venues just weren't open and weren't functioning. I mean, it's not been horrendous for me, man. Like there's actual full scale breweries out there who are struggling much harder than me, and I'm lucky that I've actually got a job to feed myself, and this is more so just to build upon. There's guys who do this for a living, and like I've said before, like they use it to feed themselves, feed their families, everything else. Like that's their main source of income, and they're the ones that are struggling the most.
Aye.
But yeah, I mean, like I obviously sent you through my the list of suppliers who are selling it.
I was going to ask, mate, if you want to, but we'll link. Sorry, we'll link to that in the links. See if we can get links. We'll put links up to every single place that you can get Industrial Farmhouse. And as Ciaran said, they're not just taking Industrial Farmhouse, these places. We'd encourage them to use them for all your beers. Do you know what I mean? Is there anyone you want to name check? Obviously, you've name checked O'Brien's there. Was there a place down in London as well that was taking your stuff?
Yeah, Tottenham Wines, man. Like Tottenham Wines has been like a big supporter for a while. Like the guy just loves just weird and wonderful stuff, and it's similar vibe to SAS, man. Like they just get a whole lot of everything. But the guy, anytime I release a beer, he's the first person to buy it. But like guys like that, and then obviously like Neil at the Wee Beer Shop, man, like he's been a supporter since day one. The Good Spirits Company, supporter since day one, man. Like they have been amazing. Both shops, so the city centre one and also the West End shop. Obviously, Cool Shipyard, which is obviously hasn't open just now. They took a cask of industrial Farmhouse, and sold it in like 3 days. That was brilliant. Guys like Curious Liquids, Martstown, Villeneuve Wines have been a massive supporter through in Edinburgh since the start. Like Henry, who does the buying over there, has always bought stuff. The Hanging Bat as well. They also took a cask, which was amazing. A cask of Farmhouse Sour Ale, and the Hanging Bat was immense, man. It was immense. So yeah, there's so many great supporters.
You must feel. I mean, as a novice brewer, right? I'm not quite, but you must just feel fantastic knowing that people can walk into these places and just pour a wee pint of your beer, man.
It's class, mate. It's the absolute dream. Like I remember when I was working in Beer Cafe, before I was actually properly commercially brewing in Beer Cafe, maybe 6 months before it shut, we'd set up a wee nano brewery in the basement. So in the kitchen we had a 50-litre nano brewery, and I was brewing beers to go in cask. And I remember the first experience of people enjoying the beer, man. It was just it's something else, man. It's like it's something you've created, man, and people are appreciating it. And it's very interesting, especially brewing sour beer, that I definitely need to have thick skin, because it's not for everybody. And some of the faces people pull afterwards. But see, when you get that one person who just really appreciates it.
Sorry, Ciaran, right? I'm going to. I'll message you a wee picture. I've got a picture. I've screenshotted it of Brenny tasting the Farmhouse for the first time, right? And at this stage, viewers, I'm going to share it now. It's an absolute belter.
It is an absolute belter,
Sorry. In fact,
it is good.
It is good, Ciaran. Sorry for interrupting your flow there, mate, but you're... Sorry, you were saying, but I'll send you it now, mate.
But that's the thing, man. It's like, it's as long as people try it, because not everyone's going to like it, but you do find people that actually do. Like, I remember, so before I was in the job just now, I was working in pavement, and we used to have a rotational ACID Brewing Cartel line.
Yeah.
And I had, I think it was my Acid Equinox that was on. And it was the most expensive beer on the tap list. It was like £6 a pint. Because we used to get just like regular guys who would just drink Guinness and all that, and like just house lager and all this kind of stuff. And we're used to paying £4. And this guy came in with his wife, and he sat down and he was like, "What does that beer at £6 a pint taste like?" And I was like, "I'll give you a try of it, man." Like I never told him like it was me that brewed it. I was like, "I'll give you a taste of it." And I put it down, and he tasted it. And he was like, "That's mental. Like I've never tasted it like my entire life." And he had another one. And he was like, "That's incredible." He's like, "That's not beer." And I was like, "It is, man." And I was like, talking about how like sour beer and all this kind of stuff, and like how at a time all beer was sour and all this chat. And he was like, "I'm going to bring my pals in here, man. Like this is absolutely mental. Like I've never tasted." And he gave it to his wife, and she was like, "This is brilliant." It's like, I think it's like it's those people that it's the most satisfying, man. It's like people don't realise that beer can.
You're flipping the whole thought process, everything. Encouraging them into a whole new world. And
that's exactly it, man.
Encouraging them into a whole new world. That guy would walk in and buy the bog standard, whatever. And I know that the Beer Cafe, it wasn't bog standard, but they did do bog standard.
Yeah.
They catered for everybody, which is marketing genius as far as I'm concerned. But it was a great place to get and get a beer, because the beer menu alone was like 5 pages. Which is exactly what you want in a pub. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is what we have on any day of the week, which is tremendous.
So, guys, I think we've expanded. That's been a really good chat. It's been so good that I've actually finished my my and this was me. I said it wasn't seshable yet, Brenny. But just for the purposes of the video and for the viewers, I think we'll say Industrial Farmhouse, man.
Cheers. A big cheers.
So, beer number 3 tonight, we've got Simple Things Fermentations number 11. It's a Saison, and it's coming from their Big Ideas series. It's coming in at a 6%. Now, while we're pouring ours, Ciaran, can you tell us a wee bit why you picked this one for us, please, mate?
So Simple Things have been really supportive of Acid Brewing Cartel since we started, man. Phil's been really open, giving advice. He's an absolute gem of a guy, man. Like, I'm happy to call him like a friend. Like, he's just really, really brand new, and he's been a really good mentor as well. Really, really good guidance. The reason I picked up here is I remember trying this at the brewery when it was in the tank and was just absolutely blown away. Funnily enough, Dom from Cool Shipyard was there as well, and we both tried it and we're just like, this is exceptional, man. Absolutely exceptional.
Smells amazing. Looks fantastic, man.
It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And the effort Phil put into this beer was immense. So originally he brewed this beer. It wasn't up to scratch. So he dumped the entire batch. Then rebrewed it and pitched it right on it back onto the yeast, and it just turned out absolutely perfect. He used a really, really good yeast for this, so it's like an American farmhouse yeast, which kind of more focuses on the kind of fruity esters rather than the kind of spicy characters that you're used to in a Saison. And I actually gave it to my girlfriend. My girlfriend isn't a massive fan of Saisons. Like I'm a big fan of Saison DuPont. It's just phenomenal as a beer. She's not that great, that happy with it. But she tried this and she was like, whoa, man, like this is great. Like really, really good. It's not as dry as your usual Saison. It's got that lovely kind of fruitiness, subtle clove, a wee bit of banana thrown in there as well. And it's just really, really sessionable.
Oh.
Like I'm just dreaming of the day when it's on draft at Cool Shipyard. Just big schooners of this.
Ciaran, mate. This is what I'm talking about, my man. Oh,
that's one of the best descriptions of a beer I've ever heard. Just summed it up entirely. You get that Mary Seal and that every. There is a spiciness to it, but it doesn't even run away with it. Do you know what I mean?
Really subtle.
It does. It's very, very subtle. Superb. That is superb. And this is the first time I've tried this. I've never had anything for Simple Things, despite it being a local brewer, etc. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. So well done to Phil. See that straight off the bat. That's superb.
I had the Simple Things. Was it the double date? Maybe double date. Had that the other night. It was a bit darker. It was a lot darker than this actually. But that. You're calling it sessionable, mate. It's 6%, man.
I know. It's these beers you don't realise how strong they are. You're just like, oh man, I could tan all sorts of this, and you don't realise it's 6%. But I mean, the body on it is brilliant. A lot of times, like I can't really drink some really, really dry saisons because it's just like, man, it's like you just like cotton mouth, and when you're drinking it, you're like, oh. But the body is just absolutely perfect, absolutely phenomenal. And he's dry hopped it lightly with some German Noble hops. I think it was Hallertauer Blanc that he used for that, just to kind of round off the yeasty flavours. It's just brilliant beer. But I'm more excited for his aging some and some tanks with a yeast culture that was cultured from malt dust from Harveston Brewery.
Wow.
So Phil used to be the lead brewer at Harveston.
Oh wow! Harveston, good friends of the show.
Aye. So Phil used to brew there and left. Must have been about 2 years ago now. Yeah, but just short of 2 years now, and decided to start his own brewery. But he brought a yeast culture that they had used there. Is now kind of souring it in this tank. And honestly, I had a wee taste of it last time it was at the brewery last week, and it was up there with some of the best kind of Belgian saisons. And I don't know if you've heard of Brasserie Bloges. It's like this really traditional farmhouse brewery in Belgium. Like they've done collaborations with like Hill Farmstead, and some people are like use them as their inspiration for saisons. And like when I tried this, as I said to Phil, I was like, that's exactly what it tastes like. Like that tastes like a proper Belgian farmhouse saison. Mm-hmm. And I'm so looking forward to it. And that's the thing is like Phil's got a really strong philosophy. He's got a really strong ethos. Like he won't use American hops. Like he won't use Simcoe. He won't use New Zealand stuff either. He only use UK and European stuff. He only uses UK and European malts, UK European hops, and all those kind of ingredients like that. And he'll make like traditional beers. Like he'll make like a bitter, or he'll make like an 80 shilling and stuff like that. But he'll also keep some aside and do like a breaded version. So he's got like an 80 shilling that's been aging on a culture that he's built himself from Burning Sky dregs and Orval dregs, which is tasting phenomenal.
Make sure we get an odd on when that 80 shillings.
Honestly, mate. Honestly, it's only.
Order.
So I think that was November when he pitched the yeast into that. So it'll be November before he releases it. So I'm super excited for that. So he's going to be doing some more stuff like that. He's going to be going through the traditional route. Plus he's going to be doing some aging stuff. But if you like big stouts, as barrel aged export porter was absolutely phenomenal. No, it was a barrel aged export stout. I think it was like 8.2% when about that. But it was like in an it was a barrel that he got from harvesting, but I can't remember where it was from. It was an ex-bourbon, but it was also used for Highland Park, I think it was.
Oh my
God, man. I know, man. It was phenomenal. I remember trying. In fact, Dom was there as well. Dom for Coolship was there as well when we tried it. And
Ciaran, hang on a minute, right? There's a bit of a recurring theme here, isn't there, Brenny? Dom, listen. Just so you know, Ciaran, we're available too, right? Only kidding, mate.
Live podcast, and you talking about a live? You talking about
no, anytime.
Dom just live podcast.
Dom just
live podcast.
So funny enough, this was all in the one day. Basically, Phil was releasing a table beer and wanted both of us to taste it because he was adamant that there was an off flavour in it. So he wanted both of us to come up and taste it and see if it was okay to sell. And that time we got to taste his Saison and also, in fact, I think I was there actually bottling. So sometimes Phil, I do like contract bottling for Phil. Like I'll go help him do some bottling. Yeah. And I think we were bottling the export stout, the barrel aged export stout. And Dom tasted it and was like, fuck man, this is so good. Like it had like a really kind of like big cherry kind of Flanders vibe on the nose as well. It was phenomenal. But Phil's also got an Imperial Stout they've released as well. I've not had a chance to try it, but currently sitting in my fridge at the moment for the perfect occasion for cracking it open. So yeah, honestly,
we'll be waiting a wee while, Ciaran, I think. Definitely know this season.
But definitely a brewery to check out, man. Like your stuff is really consistent, really good.
Nice.
Saison for me is the best.
And really accessible, viewers, as well. From a personal point of view, you walk in obviously a beer shop I've mentioned. You get this up in Key Store. I've had a few simple things up there. You get it all over. So, when you're checking out the places that we're going to link to, definitely check out that brewery as well. Listen, Brenny, I think Ciaran's kind of summed that up. I don't know about you, but I'm ready.
I'm ready to go.
Right, so would I buy that again? I already am. I'm going to try and buy that again as soon as I'm finished. And yeah, I might actually, if I find where it's available, I might just ping some links up for that as well. So yes, buy again. Sesh. It's so difficult at 6%. I would say this is the most sessionable we've had tonight. It's well sessionable. I would definitely, I would buy probably more than a couple of them. What I would really, really, really like to do is have that on a pint, man. A draft of that. That's what I'd really like to do. So I suppose, yeah, I'd sesh it. The score-wise, now, I've got a decision to make here. Brenny, that'd be nice to the guest.
No. No.
Go for it, mate. It's a 9, mate. No. It's a 9.
It is. Again, I'm just going to milk it a wee bit for a camera. Hope you don't mind.
Go on, you.
Oh, it's probably one of the best Saisons I've tried. I've tried a few. I'm going to have to give that an 8.9 out of 10, man.
Oh, that's a good score, Bilko. Very good score for you. So I'm trying to work out. That's your beer of the night, isn't it?
I might revisit the Industrial Farmhouse.
No. See, that's what you're up against. That's what you're up against, Ciaran. Always change his mind. So for me, would I buy again? Aye, definitely. If I see it. I've never seen it up in SAS, but I'm definitely going to find out
Key Store.
Key Store.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely try it up in Amherst. up at our store. He was actually talking to getting Vault City stuff in the day. Well, yesterday when I was in the last time. So another great addition to the excellent ranges already got. But aye, Saisons again only my favourite, along with the sours, but like that is lovely. Would I buy it again? Yes. I'm going to definitely try and buy it again. Would I sesh it? I think I would like one or two in the fridge to share, community-wise. Poor people who have never tried the beer before. I don't think I'd be seshing that personally. So I'd buy it again, I wouldn't sesh. And score-wise, I'm going to go 8.3. And it's more about there's a lot going on with it. There is a lot going on with it that I'm not really totally convinced with myself. Brilliant beer. Absolutely brilliant beer. No knocking it at all. 8.3. That's not a bad score by any of these fucking recommendations. But I'm just not getting it. Maybe to do with the sours previous. To what we've drank previous, maybe just my palate's not adjusted to it quite quickly enough. But a great beer. Definitely go with it. I'll be buying it again.
So Ciaran, no pressure, mate. Let's hear the verdict.
It's gonna. I was thinking of it in my head, man, but I think it's a solid 8.5, man. Absolute solid 8.5. It's probably one of the best saisons I've had as well in terms of like clean saisons. So like saisons without any wild yeast or any bacteria. Like it's just perfect, absolutely perfect for me. And like you said, man, like I could probably actually sit and have like a good couple of 2/3 of that in Cool Shipyard if it was on in draft. Like, so I'm saying yes to the sesh, mate. I'm saying very much yes to the sesh.
Love this sesh. What do you say?
It's a fantastic beer. Cheers for picking that one, Ciaran. So lads, that's a massive cheers. Well done.
Massive cheers. Cheers.
So we'll just keep the camera rolling. There's a few other things we'd just like to kind of touch on, Ciaran. I've actually got a question for you as well right now. This is from the stalwart of the Southside scene, our man Neil, and he wants to know if you could drink one beer for the rest of your life, what would it be?
So I was thinking about this last night. I've always got an answer for this, but another one popped into my head. My usual first answer is the Duchess de Bourgogne from Verhaeghe Brewery. For me, it's just an all-round phenomenal beer. I used to work in 6 Degrees North in Partick, and whenever we got that on draft, I would like literally just hand a pint of it all the time as my staffy. It's just the perfect level of sourness, the perfect level of complexity, that lovely balsamic note, the fruitiness. And it's a beer I just can't get it. I'm just never bored of it, man. Like, if it's anytime I see it, I'll always get it. The only other one that kind of like popped into my head was actually Moen from Boundary. So Boundary are a brewery from Northern Ireland, and they're actually probably better known for their IPAs, but they've got a German guy that works for them, and their lagers are phenomenal. Particularly Moen, it was just incredible, man. Like possibly the best lager I have ever had.
Wow.
Like, so I managed to get some into the Pavement when I was still working there. I got some for Ibria. And the Moan was just phenomenal. And when lockdown hit and Pavement was shut, I actually just went in and raided the full fridge and literally just took them all back. And me and my girlfriend would just sit at the back every Saturday, just tan these and just be like, this beer is just phenomenal. It was just a really simple Pilsner, dry hopped with noble hops, and it was just incredible. And it annoys me because I don't think Boundary get enough love in the kind of actual, the British Isles. I know there's a couple of places who used to stock them for a while, and I don't know what it is, man. I just never had that decent amount of hype about them. But they're a phenomenal brewery that make phenomenal beers, and they're definitely worth checking out. And
get back to Pavement. Is this a wee bit of your history of how? So Pavement, like, is that your uncle's boozers, or is that your?
Yeah, so like my dad and my uncle started Pavement in 2018. So literally just as I started ACID Brewing Cartel. So before that, they used to have the beer cafe. So they had the beer cafe from 2001 until 2018. And then before that,
it was the Mitre, wasn't it? It was the Mitre
Mitre
Bar,
Bar.
which is the absolute
legendary
classic.
Legendary.
The absolute classic, which is still immortalised. Still immortalised in the Transport Museum. For anybody that's watching this, if you want to see a proper Glasgow pub, immortalised, probably not quite as it was in the day, but a version of it, the frontage and everything else is in the Transport Museum at the Clydeside. And trust me, Jerry and Kevin that ran the Mitre, ran the beer cafe, run Pavement, great guys in the Glasgow scene, have been the best barman ever. And the Mitre Bar was, see me being a youngster at the time, get in there and just seeing, the actual love and the passion and the actual just community. And again, we get back to this all the time. We get back to everything's, the whole thing about beer and the whole thing about pubs and everything else, it's all about community. And these guys showed it. So that's your dad and your uncle, is that correct, eh?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So that's the thing, like, that's what I grew up in with my family. Like, I was very privileged to grow up in a family that had like such good appreciation for beer. Even from the ages of being able to drink, like there was always good beer in the house. Like I remember just opening the fridge and there'd be like Weiss beer, Rochford 6, all sorts of stuff just like in the fridge, and that's what I grew up with, and that's what I was used to. But yeah, some of the stories for the Mitre are insane. Like, honestly, my dad could tell you all sorts of stuff. And the strange thing is, there was so much like community aspect as well as political aspect.
Yep.
Like the upstairs lounge, there were all sorts of meetings. So the SNP used to meet up in the lounge. So that obviously like Nicola Sturgeon and stuff like that would have been in the Mitre Bar. You had people from the James Conley Society used to go meet in there. All sorts of variety of people. But I remember my uncle telling me that the leader of the BNP actually was in the Mitre Bar and was ejected. Was ejected from the Mitre Bar. The leader of the BNP. But he took it quite well. All sorts of people. I mean, like artists that have won.
The Mitre for me, because I had the experience of drinking in it as an early. I mean, my early 20s. I used to go down quite regular. We worked in George Square at the time, and we would make the effort. Like, so you could have probably got another pint gone quite somewhere closer. But you made the point of going there because of the atmosphere, the whole vibe of it. We were all trade unionists, and like you were meeting like-minded people and like-minded surroundings. And it was just a great vibe. The vibe you walked in, like after like Jerry and Kevin that always worked in it, like who basically ran the show, and it was like the vibe was brilliant, always brilliant, and that's, to me, that's Glasgow pubs. Never mind just like the Glasgow pubs that I want to go to. I mean, I worked in the Tollbooth for years and stuff, so like it's a similar vibe on a different level, but like because you had the upstairs lounge and stuff, you did find that variety of different people. But the people I went to the Mitre with were like mentors. They were showing me the ways, like in trade unionism and like politics and whatever else. And you get to places like Mitre where it's just everybody wants an argument all the time. It's just the banter at the bar. It's like you're never right. You're always challenging your whole sort of thought processes and getting back into the whole thing we've been talking about, community, and that's what it's all about. That's what I love about bars, Glasgow bars especially.
But that's the thing, man. Like you had guys who'd won like I actually can't remember his name. He won the Turner Prize in the early 90s for his when he's worked. His sign, it was like it was like Empire, then sign shot backwards. It's now in Toteen Lane. But he now like lives in Israel or something like that. He's like absolutely loaded. But he had all these sorts of like artist guys who would come into the Mitre Bar, and like you still get some of them who are like follow it. So like guys who used to drink in the Mitre who then drank in Beer Cafe, and then drank in Pavement. Like some of the guys used to have conversation with was insane, man. Particularly one of the ones who drank in Beer Cafe and then Pavement is a guy called David Pratt, who was he's a war photographer, who done like 3 tours in Afghanistan. They'd been in Nicaragua, all sorts of stuff, and he used to just come in and drink Talana, and we used to have a chat, and the things that you would never expect to have in a regular bar environment, man. Like these guys had seen all sorts of stuff, man. Like literally, he'd actually been in the Mujahideen in the mountains when they were fighting the Russians in the fucking 80s. You know what I mean? This guy, all this kind of shit, man. And like,
you just don't expect these people to be just standing
don't,
up in the middle
don't.
of Brunswick Street in Glasgow. Do you know what
I know, mate.
Crazy.
And that's the thing, man.
Crazy.
Even working in pavement and beer cafe, we had guys come in and talk about it, and like almost like we had a tear in their eye, but like it was the best. Like talking about the Mitre Bar, because the Mitre Bar was obviously so historic; it'd been there for so long. It was like one of the oldest bars in Glasgow, and hence why it's in a transport museum. But
and actually, at least it's been immortalised. You see the actual frontage and stuff, and because Brunswick Street, it's like Glasgow all over the back. You know, you walk about with your head down all the time. And the vast majority of the time, because of the rain, I'll qualify this for any viewers that don't really realise what Glasgow's like. It's usually pissing rain and our heads are doing like that. We don't actually look up. But see, when you look up, what a sight you get. I mean, the whole city is just beautiful. But Brunswick Street in particular is quite tight. And at the bottom of it was where the Mitre was. And it's immortalised in the Transport Museum in Glasgow. And if Andy's ever coming to Glasgow, make sure and go and see what a Glasgow pub is like, because this was the Glasgow pub. An absolute fantastic place, ran with good people who their offspring are taking that ethos of community on now and making it better by actually brewing us better beers and teaching us something different, which is what it's all about.
Brenny and Ciaran, man, this has just been... it's been fantastic listening to these stories, man. I could talk about these stories. I'm looking forward to hearing more stories off you in the future as well, mate. But I'll tell you, man, we're talking here, viewers, about someone who has been pretty much bred in the community of the Glasgow pub scene, beer scene. He's taken what he's found internationally and he's brought it and he's put it in a bottle, man. That's what Ciaran's done. He's also opened up a couple of new breweries for us, which we're definitely going to be checking out, man. Ciaran, is there anything else you would like to add tonight to the viewers, or anything else you want to say, or any shout outs or anything like that you want to give to anybody else you've not mentioned or anything, mate?
I think I've already given all the shout outs, man. Like shout out to local guys, man. Obviously, like guys like Up Front Brewing, Jake for Up Front has been a massive mentor for me. We shared the first festival pitch together, showed me the ropes. He's been a great advisor for me, so I always have to shout him out for that kind of stuff. But even everybody in the scene, man. So like Overtone as well. The guys at Overtone have been phenomenal with me. Always been great to give advice. Guys at Drygate as well, absolutely class. Like the scene is brilliant. It's only going to get better.
Glasgow is a wonderful place, isn't it? It really is a wonderful place.
It's been class, mate. Absolutely class.
Got a negative, for anybody that's got a negative point on Glasgow, come and visit. Once this lockdown's over, come and visit and come and see how good it is. Because I swear to God, it's an absolutely buzzing place. The community involved in it, the people involved in it, you'll absolutely love it. Absolutely. That goes for guys that are brewing, that goes for people that are consuming. I'm a consumer, as you may have noticed.
Couple of things, Ciaran, sorry mate, that I forgot to ask this, mate. Have you got any advice? Because a few novice brewers, this isn't for me personally, it's definitely not for me asking you this question, but have you got any advice for novice brewers, mate?
Read as much as you can about the history of beer, man. Like that, for me, that's where most of my inspiration comes from. Is obviously like, there's the big size behind it. It's good to know that aspect, but when you actually see how people brewed before, that's the inspiration that I get mostly. But as much reading as you can, watch as much videos, and just follow what you like, man. Like, just don't try and be influenced too much by what's popular. Mm-hmm. Just influence what influences you and just get it, because that's what inspired me, like what interested me, and I just went full pelt at it. So I've got so many bops, man. Bopping after about these things.
Ciaran, I've got a wee question for you as well, mate. Now, I've been working on a kind of a brand new beer. It's called the Bilko 36YFB Blonde. because I forgot to put the yeast in after I'd cooled the beer down, and I had to put it in 36 hours later. So it's the Bilko 36 yeast-free beer, right? 36 hour, right? But I just went ahead and added it in when I remembered. Now I'm blaming the Scotland beating England at rugby on this. Have you ever made any like schoolboy errors like that, or any? Have you done anything like that, or?
Maybe not as long as that, but they would call that the Australian method, is when you brew beer and then leave it overnight to cool down. I mean, the worst thing, how hoppy was it? Was there a decent amount of hops in it?
There was a reasonable amount of hops in it. I don't know.
You'll be fine then. In terms of like more so you're delving into the region of lactobacillus, but if you've got a decent amount of hops in it, you'll be all right.
Right.
You just need to wait and see, mate. You'll never know. To be honest, man. Back in the day, people used to chill beer over a longer period of time in cool ships. But they were anticipating a bit of wild yeast in it. But who knows, mate? You never know. That's the thing with beer. You just leave it up to the environment and see what happens.
Absolutely. Brenny's promised to taste it first, me anyway. So if anything happens to Brenny,
I'll go for it. Here, I'm not trying, man. I'll try any beer, man. Give me a beer, man. I'll try it. I'll tell you if it's going to react badly with me and kill me.
So we're going to get our beers of the night. It's just a wee summary of the night in a wee second. But I think, Brenny, you'll agree with me, and you might want to add on this. I would just like to thank you for coming on tonight, Ciaran. It's been a real education, seeing your enthusiasm and your passion for something. And I'll tell you something, mate, you are bloody good at this. You're very good at this. Cannot wait. In fact, mate, what you mentioned earlier on, you maybe have a wee beer or two coming up in May. I mean, what's the kind of future? What have you got in store for us?
To be honest, at this stage, it's just kind of playing it as it go. I've not really managed to get a long-term sight of things because I'm having to book things from other breweries, but I'm hopefully going to have a beer out in a couple of weeks' time and then another 2 beers out in 440s. If it all goes well, my Acid Mango beer, which I did, my very first beer, will be re-released again in 440s. So have a look out for that. In the future as well, I've got 2 barrels that are now sitting in the bottom of the arches. Which I've...
Oh, hey! Right now. I've actually been in the basement of the Archies on a couple of occasions, right?
So the story of this beer is I done a collaboration with Ennis and Gunn. They have their small brewery in Ashton Lane. So we brewed a raspberry ripple sour there, which went down an absolute treat. They're actually planning on brewing it on a bigger scale, but I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. But basically, when I was there was a couple of beers in the tanks in there, and I got to taste some of them. And there was one particular one. It was a thistle, honey, and rosemary pale. And a wee taste of it, and I was like, "That's pretty good, man. That's really interesting." And the brewer, the digger, was like, "Well, I'm actually meant to be throwing that down the drain because they'd made it for like a specific cocktail bar in Edinburgh, and it turns out they'd made too much, and this bar didn't want all of it." So he was like, "Well, I was going to pour it down the drain, but do you want to do something with it?" And I was like, "Fuck yes, man! Like let's do something with this." So he managed to get a Lafroig barrel and a red wine barrel. So we got that, put the beer in there, got 6 strains of Brettanomyces, and so that wild yeast that they tend to use in like lambics and a lot of other wild beers, and pitched it in there. So that must have been November before lockdown. So it's been well over a year. So that's sitting in the basement there, just chilling, just absolutely chilling. And I've had a taste. I think I tasted the beer in February. No, that's a lie. It was about 6 months after the beer was pitched, so it was during lockdown. I did a taste of the beer, and the Freud one was tasting incredible. The red wine one literally just tasted like red wine. I think it was a Chianti barrel or something like that, and it was just very, very strong red wine. So the plan was to keg half of the Lafroig barrel, half of the red wine barrel, and then blend the rest.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be very interesting, man. So I'm very looking forward to when that happens.
Yeah, can you put us down for a bottle of that, please? Comes out, please.
Well, I'm hoping to get some kegs so I can sell an Innocent Gun beer into Cool Shipyard.
Sorry, man. Listen, as I said, Brennan, it's been fantastic tonight. So personally, thanks. Brennan, is there anything you'd like to see to Ciaran?
I just like to say thanks to Ciaran for coming on and promoting what he's doing and like just the community involved in Glasgow, because it's brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. Look, like, everywhere you go now in Glasgow, and during lockdown, the funny thing is during lockdown you're finding out more through like the beers that you're trying. You're actually going and sourcing things that you probably wouldn't just stumble across. So everybody try it. If you're watching this channel, try and go and see these beers that we've reviewed tonight. Just try and see where you can get other things, because there's so much on our doorstep. It's all about community, and that's what beer is to me. And just keep on doing what they're doing.
Honestly, if you
and I've got to thank our own Glasgow Michael Lustig. I'll be sitting here all right going, I'm pleased to double Michael Lustig.
We're going to come just to the beer of the night, and we're going to end that, because we do like to end that, Ciaran, and we'll get the tune on at the end, etc. Is there anything you want to say? Are you done for the night, Ciaran?
No, just thanks for having me on, man. Like, I really enjoy getting the opportunity to come and like talk about the beers and like have a chat with you guys. Like, it's brilliant to like talk about people about the beer, and not obviously just not my own beer, just like the variety of beers that are happening in Glasgow, and be able to just talk about the scene. Like, it's class, man. Like, I'm really missing actually being in the pub. Like, usually I love just sitting at the bar at Cool Shipyard. Like, I am a bar person. Like, I love to just sit at the bar, even if it's a bar that I'm not a regular in. The bar is the best place to be, because you just sit and you just get to the chat with everybody and everything else. And that's what I'm missing. But this is obviously the closest thing it could happen, and it's been brilliant to just sit. And I'm looking forward to the future when I'm stumbling to Cool Shipyard and you're sitting in Coconut Corner, absolutely blotto, the two of you. I mean, get a good conversation like this.
We are indeed. You're welcome on the show anytime you want, Ciaran Ed. So, lads, beer of the night. I'm going to leave my beer of the night to the end. So, Brenny, beer of the night for yourself.
Well, I'm going with what I scored it, which is Ciaran's own beer.
Okay.
Which is Farmhouse Ale, which is really, really, honestly, if you're trying one beer out of the three that we've reviewed, I would recommend going with Ciaran's, because it really is something that I think it'll make you think about things. And that's what it's all about. Like, we've tried three different sort of beers, like, but all similar styles to a point. But the Farmhouse Ale, looked at a lot of them, and especially after Ciaran's gave us the whole lowdown and what his ethos was in building it and brewing it, trust me, you're not going to be disappointed. It'll be something that you enjoy. Might not be what you think's a beer. You maybe not class it as a beer, but trust me, you'll really enjoy it. And so I'm for that, Ciaran. Not because you're on the show. I scored this well before you were on. So I'll go with Ciaran's Farmhouse Ale from ACID Brewing Cartel.
Yeah. Ciaran?
Anyway.
It's a really tough one, man. I was just thinking that through there, because I was like, would I do the Dookit as the best, or would I do the Saison? I was like, what would I have more? What would I sit and drink more of?
I know, it's
a really tough one.
It's one of the ones, it's your beer, right? Just literally, I think everybody watching this gets where we're coming from. We're all scoring everything very close.
Yeah.
And that's because of the quality of beer, so don't worry about it. I think MD will know what you're doing with best intentions.
As much as I love this, as much as I really enjoyed this, the bottle of the Dookit was class. Like, I feel like when I first had that, I was like, man, this is the third time I've had it, and I think this is the second batch he's done. And I feel like the second batch the first batch was amazing, but this batch is even better. So I'm going to go for the Dookit as my beer of the night. I'm going to go for the Dookit. Treat yourself.
Brilliant. So that leaves myself. So if you're watching back, obviously you'll know in order it would be the Dookit in third, Simple Things in second, and Industrial Farmhouse in second, and Simple Things in the lead. But all I would say to you is this yours. I think you should all treat yourself to the simple things in life, because as my missus was walking out the door the night, she'd nicked a bottle of that and she gave it a 9.5, which drives the average of this above 8.9, which means Coots Graphics, Bilko Brenny's podcast, Beer of the Night, and Brenny's is the Industrial Farmhouse from Ciaran, ACID Brewing Cartel. Get your nashers round it, and cheers.
Cheers.